Guys, can you hear me?
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this session of ours by the Global Schools Forum and with support of the Citizens Foundation. We've recently started this learning series on communications and storytelling. We've heard a lot of interest across the GSF community and wanted to start with a bang. So it is a bang, given that the Citizens Foundation has been there for 30 plus years. They've had an amazing history. I have my heart with it. I've worked with them for 4.5 years. So it's a complete family, and wanted to introduce this element of unlocking the power of storytelling. Storytelling has been very important for each one of us, given that we are all learning stories, listening to stories, and always sharing stories about others and about ourselves. So before I hand it over to our esteemed guest, I wanted to share a bit again about the Global Schools Forum. I'm sure most of you and all of you are familiar with it, but I think what excites us the most is the community is growing. We've now grown to 174 organizations together across 64 countries with so many children we are collectively serving. And the mission is becoming more stronger and clearer together. And we are building stronger together as well. We would love to know where you're joining from, who you are. Please, I know that you've done it multiple times, but there are many new people always joining us. So if you can share, your name, your organization, and where you're joining from, what time is it, so that we can appreciate and acknowledge everyone who is joining the space with us. Some housekeeping. This workshop is being recorded. A link to the recording along with the takeaways will be sent to everyone, including those who are unable to join us today. We will be together for 90 minutes. Mevish, Shazina, and Anam will be presenting today and sharing a lot of deep insights, but you may have many questions or reflections or thoughts. Please don't wait till the end. We have Q&A later as well. We have activities as well. Well, it'll be great if you can put it in the chat box and we will respond there or take it up at the end. Another thing which is very important for us, we really listen to your feedback or try to listen to the feedback. So at the end of the session, we'll launch a very short poll, 60 seconds or so. We'd really appreciate if you can fill the poll. It really helps us gather reflections and encourage different thought-provoking sessions for the future. We are grateful for your presence. As always, we encourage and appreciate undivided attention for these 90 minutes, and your openness has always unlocked new possibilities. We are looking forward to doing the same today. Our objectives are fourfold. Why storytelling is essential for TCF's mission. What is TCF storytelling mantra? How TCF adapts their stories for different platforms and mediums with 2,000 plus schools across Pakistan and donors across the globe. How to craft an impactful story using TCF storytelling techniques. So that's where you come in, share your context, and we let us feel of how TCF techniques can help you and your context can help everyone else think about their context better. And this brings me to a place where I'm very happy to introduce all three, Shazina, Mevish, and Anam. Shazina has been a head of brand and communications. She's been a master storyteller for over 10 years. Mevish is the one who really creates content, thinks about every child, every platform, every story around it. And Anam loves data. So you have data, you have storytelling, and you have content driven, and you have all in one today. So really looking forward and handing it over to Shazina, Mevish, and Anam. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, great. So I am just going to, yes. So yeah, let's start. I am Shazina, and I've been a part of TCF for the past 6 years. TCF values and behaviors really changed me as a person. And that's the reason I've been a part of this organization for the past 6 years. I have with me Anam Asad and Mevish Iqbal, who have been producing fantastic stories for different mediums we work on. We have three sections. For our presentation, I will go through some initial slides to set the context. Mavish will go through what's the mantra behind our storytelling, and Anna will be going through how we release stories for different mediums. And I will have an activity. Mavish will have her own activity, and then Anna will be also doing a short activity with you guys. So, something about TCF. TCF started 30 years ago with a mission to build 1,000 schools across Pakistan and educate the first generation in communities that never had schools. By the way, TCF stands for the Citizens Foundation. We are a not-for-profit organization running across Pakistan, and we have 2,033 school units with 301,000 students enrolled and 14,700 teachers and principals working towards bringing in change through education. Just some food for thought. Storytelling activates multiple areas of the brain, not just the language center, but also sensory and emotional regions. This was quoted by Cognitive Neuroscience, a journal of cognitive neuroscience. So let's begin. Why storytelling is essential for TCF's mission. I think it's the heartbeat of TCF. We bridge between numbers and emotions, transforming statistics into lives changed. Each story is a window into dreams, struggles, and triumphs of our students, teachers, and communities. Storytelling is not just about telling, but about making people feel and believe in the power of education. We are still on a journey, I would say. Every day we come up across a different story, a different technique, and we like experimenting things. So here are the 4 points that I've listed down, but obviously every organization would have a lot more. So the first thing is to humanize our mission. Obviously, beyond the abstract goals and organizational jargons, we put a human face and a voice to the cause. And it is about making your work feel personal, emotional, and relatable to the people that you connect with, not just intellectually, but emotionally. So over-reliance of data could be can be cold sometimes and can be impersonal. Supporters may understand what you do, but not why it matters. People don't give to causes, they give to people with causes. So I have an example that I would like to share. It's a video. I hope you could also hear the sound. Wait. So it's a video. There was a year-end campaign that we did, and there was a actual study by research by World Bank that the reason why the girls are dropping out of school. And we turned a factual campaign into a very dramatic way, where we showed different reasons of the girls dropping out of schools, because obviously those stories were very relevant and were there in the communities that we worked in.
Ali, Abdullah, Asad, Amna, Mahnoor, Maryam, Saad, Sarah,
still get goosebumps when I see this video. I think it's very, it's a very strong message, and we were able to pull this off. So the second is obviously to build emotional connection with the donors and supporters to show impact. So some supporters might, are inclined towards statistics. However, majority resonates with the personal details of the protagonist. They would remember the story if those details are mentioned and where they are from, what do they do, and eventually that would create a recall in their mind. So emotional stories also help us in standing out in the crowded not-for-profit space. There was a research I was reading by Stanford University that donors are 22 times more likely to remember a story than a statistic. So obviously it's an important thing. An example that I would like to share is from COVID times when we were running a COVID response appeal back in 2020, and visuals are very important for storytelling, and we rely on high resolution and very nice and bright pictures. However, COVID times, we never knew that this challenge will be faced as well, and we would be required to report to our supporters on the appeal that we were doing. So we got these pictures from from a phone camera, and the basic update would be TCF distributed 500 ration packs in Rehdi Gode last night, and TCF alumni were active in the mission and distributed ration packs. But what we did was that we sketched the scene for supporters to imagine. And the story went like a night mission. That was the subject of the story. And it started, I'll read the first paragraph for you guys. Around 2 a.m. on April 5th, in the dark of the night, TCF alumni Mehraj Sheikh and Mansoor Ahmed led their community-based volunteer team of 60 members on a special mission. Most of them were former students of TCF like themselves. Their mission: distribute ration bags in the fishing community of Rehdi Gode on the coastal belt of Karachi. So in order to provide an update, what we did is we obviously sketched a scene of that happening at that point in time. And we also shared a detail of how that data was collected. And obviously there was a long detail, but the way we did was we captured the Rehdi Gode's depth, the place, wherever this happened, that the place was, kind of shared in detail, and how the data was collected was also shared. So I feel that saying we provide access to quality education is important, but saying Alia, a 10-year-old who used to sell fruit on the street, now wants to be a teacher is powerful. Eventually, all of this helps in memorizing hooks of the story and the organization as well, creating awareness leading into action. We also firmly believe in being consistent on sharing our stories. Staying top of mind and sharing relevant communication is extremely important. On this point, I would also like to share another story on relevance. So this is a beautiful picture of Amjad, who's sitting in the center with his 6 daughters. And this is a story that we shared on Father's Day. And this got a lot of hype because Amjad was, we shared Amjad's story and his struggles and, the challenges that he faced in educating her daughters. I still remember the interview that we took of him, and we were sitting with him, and he shared a very hurtful comment from his community. And he said that, what good would it do to educate your daughters? You should worry about their marriage and dowry instead. In this story, we focused on the power of a father's dream, and it got a lot of eyeballs and engagement. He loved TCF because of the comfort of his daughters and the quality education it provided. And his daughters are pursuing successful professions and careers. Sharing this on Father's Day matched the emotions of many, which resulted in a lot of reshares. So what are the key points to remember? And I think this comes very handy in producing our stories. Number 1 is the spark. What inspired change? And I think this is the starting point of the story, the moment or motivation that led someone to take action or imagine a different future. It could be a problem that needed solving, a dream someone dared to pursue, or a trigger event that set things in motion. And an example could be a girl who watched her brother go to school every day while she stayed home and wished for the same. And I feel that this section sets the context and introduces why of the story. Next is the struggle. What challenge was faced? Every meaningful story has a conflict or difficulty. This is where the heart of the story lives. It reflects the obstacles the character or community had to confront: poverty, access, mindset, social norms, lack of resources, etc. A child facing resistance from their family for attending school, this could be an example. And the struggle makes the story relatable and grounds it in reality. Now, the third point would be is shift. What was the turning point or breakthrough? This is the moment of change, the decision, event, or support that came through. It could be small but significant. Someone intervened, someone arrived, or there was a mindset shifted. An example could be a new building, a new school was constructed, and enrollment doubled within weeks. And I feel this is the aha moment of the story, where hope enters the picture. Next is impact. What changed as a result? And now we show the results of the breakthrough. What's better now? What has been achieved? How's life different for the person or community now? These outcomes should be specific and visible. And the example would be a child is now in grade 5 and dreams of becoming a doctor. The school has gone from 30 students to 300 students with better attendance. This is where the audience sees that change is real and possible. And the last is emotion. What should the audience feel? A good story should evoke emotion, empathy, hope, pride, inspiration for the audience. This is why people would remember your story and act upon donating, volunteering, or advocating for your organization. Emotion is the bridge between your story and your audience's heart. I still remember we were conducting an event, in January, and this was the most important point while we were doing storytelling. That what emotion do we want to trigger in the audience's heart? Yeah. So time for a quick activity. I hope I did not bore you guys. So the activity is very basic. I'm going to share a few pictures of a student called Khalil. He's 10 years old, he's in grade 5, and he hails from Gwadar, Pakistan. Khalil is a bright young child who loves to study and teach others, and he comes from a large family of 11 and is the youngest of the lot. I'm going to share a few pictures, and I'm not going to tell you the entire story. These are the few points, key points that I want you to have in mind. And taking these steps in mind, I would like you to write a paragraph about Khalil. So spark, struggle, shift, impact, and you have to have in mind that what emotion do you want the audience to feel. So there's a picture of Khalil, happily dressed in his uniform. That's his father, who works. He's on a push cart with Khalil. So here's our little Khalil, who is, right after school, he relieves his father of the car and takes over. And he makes sure to gather a crowd before his father comes back and does all the money exchanges in his father's presence. And here is Khalil happily standing beside his mother with his pet hen. So if you guys are done watching these pictures, I would like you to start writing a short paragraph with all of these things or all of these points in mind.
Yazina, I had one question. Given that
Yeah.
everyone has their own context and they may not be familiar with Pakistan's context, can they keep this child in mind with visualizing their own context?
Sure. That's not a problem. But I thought these visuals are quite powerful, and whatever context that you want to set, whatever drama that you want to put in that little paragraph that we are requesting you to write, you could have these pictures in mind and refer to this. Yeah. So can I have some reactions also? And I'm just setting the timer on my phone. So we'll start the activity right now.
Shazina, could you please put up Khalil's story again?
Whenever you guys are done, you can post paragraph on the chat. 5 more minutes, guys. Then I also just want to say that, if you're struggling, you could always ask questions on the chat. And secondly, if you could only give the hook of the story, whatever hook you have in mind, like just a sentence, just post it on the chat, and we would love for you to unmute and share your, just read the paragraph aloud.
Hi, Shazina. Hi, Ajay. Hello. So I have actually written on a diary. So if I could just narrate when it's time. I don't know. We had to put it on chat. I'm a very pen and paper person too. So
So just 2 more minutes, Anusha, and then I think you can start talking. I guess we can start. Anusha, why don't you go ahead?
okay, cool. So how it came naturally. It's almost like it seemed like it's a video film for me. So immediately my mind went on an asset as if I'm watching a movie. I mean, an ad film or something on any of the platforms. So out in the Gwadar, is it correct? Out in the Gwadar city of Pakistan lives a chirpy little boy called Khalil. He's young, he's bright, he has the whitest to the smile, and he loves his hen. But we wish that was his daily reality. The reality is Khalil has to support his father's income. That's why he pushes the cart and he does it with a light smile. He was okay with living this way until he met XYZ, a person who introduced him to school. He met his parents and began his journey of studying in something there. And since then, there's been no looking back. One tiny intervention, one tiny hand holding, and something. That's the look.
That's beautiful. That's really nice. So, Angela, do you want to go? Do you want to go next? Do you want to read up your paragraph?
Hi, can you all hear me and see me? Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, good. I wrote this really quickly, having the image of the pictures that I had in my head, which I forgot as I was going along. So it's just a very, very quick initial structure for a story. Let me just pull it up. I put it into chat, but I'll just pull it up here. So Khalil, being the youngest of 11 children, was often the one that was chosen to do most of the household chores, as his older family members were at school and later on they were carrying out work outside the home that brought in a salary. So he really wanted to be in the same position as his siblings, but he always faced the challenge that his parents, particularly his father, never listened to because he needed the support. And he was the youngest child. Then came along NGO ABC, who offered mother and father group numeracy and literacy programs that involved Khalil directly, which he absolutely loved attending. After some time, his parents became more interested in his enthusiasm to attend school, so decided to put more focus on his learning. Excuse me. Now Khalil is attending school, he's making friends, and he's developed a really keen interest in mechanics and maths, which his father is really pleased with, as it can transfer back into support that he can give his dad at home. And he can also support both his parents, his mother and father, with financial planning for shopping, something like this. So that was the impact that I was looking at, but it was very quick. I mean, the details could change if I spent more time on it.
It's lovely. Thank you so much, Angela, for sharing this.
Okay.
Should we go through all the stories, Ajay? I believe we can.
I think as time permits, there are 2 in the chat as well.
Yeah. So we can take one more story because there's a lot of exciting content coming up. Whoever wants to go and read their story.
I just saw Ashley's message, so sorry, I'm having problems with Zoom, so I've got it on my phone as well. Okay. From behind his father's pushcart in Gwadar, Pakistan, Khalil used to watch as the other 10-year-olds walked past on their way to school. Khalil wanted desperately to be among them, but as the youngest of his 11, his family just didn't have the funds to send Khalil to the local school. Last June, a new school funded by an organisation opened in the community, free to families like Khalil's. His parents jumped at the chance to enrol their bright, eager youngest child. Now top of his class, Khalil is thriving. Each day after school, he runs back to his father's cart, keen to teach him what he learned that day.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. So moving on to Mevish, and I will stop sharing my screen. Mevish will go through what's the mantra behind TCF storytelling.
Hi everyone, I hope I'm audible. Yeah, am I audible? Okay, great. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Let me know when you're able to see my screen. Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay, just give me a second. Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good. So, hi everyone, this is Mevish, and I have spent 6 years at TCF telling some really amazing stories. That has nothing to do with my expertise. It's more about actually the people we meet on the ground and the amazing children we meet. And their stories are just so good that, they really touch the heart. And a little bit about myself. I love stories. As a child, I loved stories. It was always my escape into a world of imagination. And I love children. So the best part about my job is that I get to do what I love, which is tell stories of children. And not only tell those stories, but also, drive impact from it. And I think that's the reason why I get for 6 years now, and I hope to stay. So what is TCF's storytelling mantra? Like Shazina mentioned, that your stories are the voice of your organization. And the way you tell your stories is how your audience experiences your organization, how they connect with your mission, and it also helps you build credibility for your organization. And it's always good to have a guiding philosophy. We actually have a whole ethos document by which we tell our stories. And for TCF, it's very simple. Our values are what drive our storytelling. So I'm very excited to share some of those really important points, part of our ethos that we usually keep in mind while sharing these stories. And just a disclaimer that we make a lot of mistakes while telling stories. This is a process that we're learning and we're growing. So storytelling itself is not like a fixed format. There's a lot of trial and error, and so many things are changing in storytelling itself that we are also trying to just continuously experiment. So we'll just go over a few ways how TCF tells stories. The first and foremost important thing for TCF to tell stories is that we tell real stories. Our characters, our settings, our dialogues, everything is real. We don't fictionalize anything. We even go to the extent that when we have any campaign appeals like the one you saw in the beginning of this presentation, we only use our students. We don't hire child actors, and that is to bring authenticity to the whole mission, and so that people, when they look at us for what and who we are. And using your own beneficiaries adds a lot of authenticity to your work. That's what we believe. Of course, we take creative liberty in crafting these stories, but the facts always stay the same. In 2019, actually, it was one of my first assignments, and I had to go to a fishing village. It's called Jhangesar. It's in Sindh. And when I went there, I met this amazing teacher, Shaheen, who's standing in the middle. And when I noticed her, she was like just so passionately working. She was engaging with the students. She was running around. She just really moved me because of how invested she was in her work. So obviously, when I got time to sit with her, the first question I asked her was, what really, makes you so passionate about what you do? Like, why do you love what you do? And she instantly pulled up her phone and she showed me a picture. And when I saw that picture, I got stumped because the picture was of Shaheen at 10 or 11 years old, and she had just been pulled out of school because she was getting married as a child bride. And when I saw this picture of Shaheen at 10 years old, I was like, this child, this girl who doesn't even know what marriage is being, pushed into, a marriage because it is a custom in the village. So how can this 11-year-old girl, what is the journey here? Because I could totally see who Shani today is. So I could tell that there's obviously a character arc. There is a real story behind it. What changed Shani, or what is her journey? How did she really? When I sat with her and she told me her story. So for me, when I'm looking at a story, there are a couple of things I have to think about. First of all, what is it that my protagonist or character really, really desperately wants? Like, it doesn't have to be something really big. It could be as simple as a little kid just wanting an ice cream. But they should have a goal. For Shaheen, it was just to go back to school. She didn't know what it would, how it would change her life, but she just wanted to go back to school. So there was Shaheen, who had a very strong goal. She wanted to go back to school. But then Shaheen also had a really big obstacle, which was that she got married, as a child. And that meant she had to move in with her husband and she couldn't go back to school anymore. And then I think about, okay, what did she do about it? What is the action that she took to get here? And of course, Shaheen as an 11-year-old could not have alone made this journey. There were all obviously characters along her journey who helped her, and that's where we think TCF came in. But in Shaheen's case, when she started telling me her story, it was just like she pleaded to her parents, and she even went to the extent she said that I had stopped eating, I had stopped sleeping. I just told them, send me back to school for one more year. I just want to go for one more year. She got her principal engaged with the parents who counseled her, and they allowed her to stay for one more year. And year after year, that was the story, and just because she was able to go back to school, her story didn't end there because the obstacles kept coming in, so every time every year at the start of the year, they would tell Shaheen that this is your last year at school. But somehow the principal and Shaheen would, be able to convince the parents to let her study one more year. And eventually Shaheen graduated grade 10, sorry, and that's when she had to move in with her husband, who luckily was also a TCF alumnus and, had also graduated and, was a little more mature. So both of them took the decision to continue their education. And that's how, Shaheen continued her education. And then she came back to the TCF school as a teacher, doing for other girls what her principal did for her. So it was like a full circle for Shaheen. So I know when a story is true when I see a very strong character arc of where the character was, what the obstacle was, what did they do to achieve their goal, and there's always not a resolution, but in Shaheen's case, there was a happy ending that she's giving back to her community. She's also, embracing her relationship as a wife. So what an amazing example to set for the girls in the community to fight for their rights and to also, to respect a relationship when the time comes for it. That said, Shaheen's story had a resolution, but not all stories are happy stories. In fact, I strongly believe that real stories are rarely perfect. There's a lot of beauty in imperfection, and any story which is too perfect is almost not always true. So this is another family that we met a few years ago. This little girl is Rabia, and this is her mother. So Rabia has lost her father, and her mother is actually she has breast cancer, so she's in the final stages of breast cancer, and the mother knows she's not going to be around, very long. So she's so passionate about educating her daughter, so that when she leaves, her daughter is empowered and not dependent on anyone. And there's almost a spark in her eyes, when she talks about her daughter. So I'm just going to go through what she said, what she told us. So she says, I'm suffering from breast cancer. As a result, a lot of responsibility has landed onto Rabia's shoulders. Along with breeding livestock, she cleans the house, cooks for the family, and takes care of me. And after doing all of this, she also goes to school in the afternoon. I want my daughter Rabia to become a doctor, but no, I won't be here to see that. So, we know that eventually, Rabia will study and, she will become a doctor, hopefully. But we also know that her mother won't be here to see that. So it's kind of a bittersweet story. It's not a perfect story, but it's important to highlight all kinds of stories. So some tips on how to stay authentic in your stories. Number one, you always have to fact check and research your story and do it again. Because in my experience, I've noticed a lot of things are communicated or miscommunicated and they don't turn out to be true. So make sure that your story is authentic from the start to the end, every single thing about it. In Rabia's case, I used her mother's code, which really helps. So any potential donor who is also a mother would really connect with Rabia's story because her mother is talking. And then, beware stories that sound too perfect. And very important is to use media that corroborates your story. So in the case of Shaheen, if I just told you she was married as a child bride, maybe you wouldn't have been able to connect with it that much. But when I showed you that picture of a 10, 11-year-old girl dressed as a child bride, I think that adds a lot of authenticity to your stories. So moving on. Another very important thing, and this is what I love about TCF, which is very unique also, that we always highlight hope and resilience in our stories. We know that in the development sector, misery sells, pity sells, and we know that. But in TCF's ethos, we always strive to empower our characters. And, even in the most difficult stories, stories of hardship, like you saw Khalil, or Shaheen, we always try to highlight the positive in it, right? And it's not just something that we do consciously when we go in the field and we meet, our students. We are, surprised by the kind of resilience they have, despite, like, they don't treat themselves as victims, They are always talking about their dreams, what they want to do, what they want to change for their families. So they don't victimize themselves. We never victimize our beneficiaries. So we always strive to empower them and uplift them, and because it also gives the story a very good feel at the end of the day. You can make someone sad or you can inspire someone. We usually choose to inspire people. So I am going to highlight how we do this. So this is Bhuta, and I'm going to tell you his story in two different ways. And the first way is that this is Bhuta, and he lives in Kasur, and he lives in a tent which is near a garbage dump site. And from that garbage dump site, Bhuta collects these plastic bottles and he sells to make ends meet. And please support his education so that he can go to school and he is not a victim of this child labor. But the way we choose to tell this story at TCF is a little different. So we'll tell you, yes, this is Bhuta Bashir. He lives in Kasur near a garbage dump site and he sells plastic bottles to make ends meet. But look at this amazing boy who, despite doing all of this, has 100% attendance at school. He loves science and he wants to become a doctor, and he never misses a day at school because school brings him joy and he's the happiest when he's at school. And instantly, we remove Bhuta from, we don't make Bhuta a victim of his circumstances. We really, deep dive into who Bhuta really is, what is his character. And, sometime back we made a small reel out of it as well. So I'm going to play this. Let me know if you can hear the sound. Are you able to hear the sound? Oh,
No.
sorry. Just give me 1 second. I think I have to share my screen again.
But it's just music, Mavish. I think it should be okay, right?
Okay, take it, fine. Okay, so some quick ways on how you can empower your hero. First of all, you need to know your character. I knew Shaheen because I had a one-on-one chat with her. The more you know about your hero and you go into their character traits, their motivations, who they are as a person, the better you can, describe them to your donors or prospective engaging people. And always.
Sorry, am I audible? Yeah, okay. So we always focus on the positive beyond the misery. Again, you have to highlight the problem like we did in Bhuta's case, but we want to also uplift the hero and we never compromise on the dignity of our characters. Moving on, third and very, very sensitive thing for us is we respect consent. And it's something that over the time we're really working on navigating and formalizing this process because consent in today's time is very, very important. And you want to preserve that self-esteem and dignity of people who are sharing their stories with you. So some tips on how we as a team are working on navigating consent. First of all, you have to follow very strong consent protocol. Often at times we take consent and the pictures go up and then we get a call or message that they want it down and we immediately take it down, but at least we know that we followed a protocol and we put them up with permission. But I've also noticed that it really helps when you start talking to the person and address their concerns. So a lot of time, few teachers don't want to show their faces on social media. So there are a lot of ways to go about without showing their pictures. You can choose a back shot. You can do a lot of things with the story creatively, as long as you're getting the story out there. And then you can tell them, this is the impact your story could have. So like if, your children are going to school, it could help other children go to school if you share your child's story. And stories that you have no consent but are really, really amazing, which happens a lot of times with us. You can use those stories in a closed setting on one-on-one. Okay, just bear with me a little longer. This is the last point, which is we tell diverse stories. And this is very important because I, for the longest time, I had this mindset, story is like a single format, 250 words, picture, essay, all of that. But nowadays, storytelling is everything. Like every single thing is a story. If you have a picture, you have a soundbite, you have a letter, anything and everything is a story. And the more raw it is, the better it is. So like even in Shaheen's case, the picture was completely raw, even in Madiha's case, it was mostly raw. So we have started noticing that the more raw content we use in storytelling, people really appreciate that. Like they really connect with it because again, it shows a lot of authenticity. So at my first week at TCF, actually, I got this video from a principal on WhatsApp. So I'll just play it for you. So when I got this video from the principal on WhatsApp, she just shared it, like she just got excited to see her student who's, cycling literally in the middle of nowhere. This was like a very remote area of Hyderabad, and she was cycling all her way to school. So we instantly put it up on Instagram, and we said, just another day in the middle of nowhere, Sidra cycles her way on a bumpy road to the TCF school in Daulat Khan Lagari, Hyderabad. Thousands of young girls like Sidra make countless efforts each day to get access to their basic right of education. Support is to educate more girls and help them achieve their dreams. So any piece of content, you can turn it into a story. So this cycling video, which was very powerful, and later when we share the presentation, you can also hear the audio, which really tells about the whole environment. We converted it into an appeal for girls' education and how girls in Pakistan are striving for access to education. Similarly, in 2022, Pakistan faced one of the worst floods in its history, and houses were, washed away. And TCF schools at that time were the only safe havens because of, how strongly they were built. And when these students came back to school, we usually have a period which is called Khair Magdam. It means welcome, where students are just asked to express what they're feeling and just talk about it. So one of the teachers, this was in Tandualayar, it's also a village in Sindh, asked children to just draw whatever they want. And that principal, I'm in touch with her all the time. She keeps sending me content, and this is one. She immediately sent it to me that this is what one of my students made, and it's a beautiful picture in itself. Like it's a beautiful drawing because a student in class 3 is able to just portray the moment that the floods are washing away her house. They're running away, and it's beautiful, but it's so much more deeper than that because it shows that how important it is for children to come back to school because of the impact the floods have had on their mental health and how they need to process it. And their school has now become a place where they can process these emotions through these activities. So when we got this picture, we got so excited, we immediately converted it into like a printable postcard. We were having our air and campaign at the time, and we got it printed. I got this picture on WhatsApp again, raw, and we just put some text together and we printed it and we sent it to our donors around the world. And it was very well received because it just visually showed, and it was drawn by a student. It was very, very real. So again, everything that you get, you can collect from the field. You should try to use it from a storytelling perspective. And an important point here is to really stay connected to the people who are really running your mission on the ground, or just be very active and go yourself in the ground. Some important points is that we tell diverse stories through diverse characters and themes because often at times we notice that sometimes stories start sounding very repetitive. Like a kid was out of school, then a TCF school opened there, and the child started going to school. But when you start telling stories from different perspectives, but eventually they should come down to how education is impacting them. But in case of Rabia, for example, we told the story from her mother's perspective. Similarly, we told Shaheen's story in first perspective, in first person. So use different characters. A principal usually can tell stories at TCF. So use different characters while highlighting the impact your organization is making. And again, in themes are so important. All year round, we are focusing on so many themes. Like in Bhuta's case, you can say the theme was poverty. In Shaheen's case, there was early marriage, girls' education. So, even on Father's Day, we highlight stories through fathers' perspectives. We have a lot of children who work, alongside their studies. So we show their workplaces. And the best part about TCF is that, we are present all over Pakistan. So we get a lot of variety in the kind of, backdrops that we can use, the kind of, cultural nuances of every area, the language, sometimes we translate. So all of this really adds, it makes your stories different when you use different perspectives. So I think you get the point. Another thing I want to add is this is an excerpt from TCF's annual report. Now, sometimes, like Shazina said, like any programs or numbers can sometimes be boring to communicate. So even when you're talking about your programs, you want to tell your donors about something innovative that you've started doing. Try if you can convert it into a story. So this is a capstone project that we introduced in TCF schools, and this was in TCF adopted government schools. And what we did was basically capstone in the capstone project. Children are supposed to pick up a community problem, they find the resources, they solve problems, and they resolve the community problem on their own. So instead of just telling them the way I told you right now, we picked up a group project and we used the project leader Haris as the protagonist of this story, and we wrote the whole story from his perspective. So when you get the slides, you should, you can read through and see how we try to create more energy and life into the story, and convey what the program really is about and what change it brings. So some tips on how to tell diverse stories. Like I said, communicate every piece of content with a storytelling lens, pick different themes, and where you can, try to be visually diverse. Okay, that's it. We'll move on to the activity now. So you guys can get your pens and papers out. I want you guys to recall one person you've met, ideally at your workplace, whose story stayed with you, and you ideally want to share it with others. It could also be a story you're currently working on, but you're, stuck at it. So just think of that one person. It could be a community story as well. So that's up to you. So once you do that, I want you to structure your story and just make notes out of it. So like you start with the challenge or the plot or the situation. So if I give you an example from me, in Shaheen's case, what was the challenge? The challenge was that she was just dropped out of school, and that was her situation. She wanted to go back to school, but she was getting married. So that was the problem, and that was the context. And then what did she do about it? Sorry, before that, first thing you actually need to do that, when you think about that character, write what their goal is. So something that they really, really desperately want. So in Shaheen's case, she wanted to go back to school. But what was the challenge in her story? The challenge was that she was getting married and she had to move in with her husband. So this was the context. Then you want to write pointers on what they did, your character did. So it could be the efforts that they made, or like a mentor who jumped in and helped them. In this case, maybe your organization, someone from your organization jumped in and helped that person out. And uh, there are still obstacles, along the way. So, in Shaheen's case, every year she faced this obstacle to drop out, but she kept pushing, there was resilience. And then at the end, I want you to say that, was there a resolution? What did the character achieve what they want to, or are they still in the process of achieving it? So just make rough notes, and you can share it on the chat, or if you want to talk about that, we would love to hear them. So take, I think, 10 minutes, and we can start sharing our stories. So I think Ajay, we're also short on time, right? So if someone is done, they could share their stories in the comment section, I think.
I think we can certainly hear one or two, maybe.
Sure. Sounds good.
Hi, I had a quick question. So when we say what they did, action, by they, are we meaning the protagonist here of the story or the problem creators or people they have to deal with?
Yeah, so like so the main character who's trying to
The-
go towards their goal, and of course they can have help from people around them.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So can we start hearing some stories?
Hello, I can share. Last 15-20 seconds mein. So I, frankly speaking, it was very hard for me to put it in a structure. I had like, this one person, but just two, because the person is very close, so the person. It's so hard to like structure a person struggle in a certain way. But here's the first cut try. I mean, a moment. So again, cinematic. So marriage, interreligion, intercaste. No, this is inter-country, and hence everything that comes with it. So I'm taking a fictitious name, say Nidhi. Nidhi's parents belong to Chhapra district of Bihar, which is of course one of the the less developed areas, with a plan in mind. Nidhi had the best of education. She went to the top college of the country, higher education, finished her PhD, got a job, found a guy. The obstacle attention part comes in. Parents, it's not really weaved in very well because I was trying hard to follow the structure. Until the day came that the mother, so of course the whole parents resisted, difficulties in the family, relationship struggles. Until the day came and Nidhi tried hard and hard and hard. So almost like there's a breaking point appearing. Until the day came when the mother warned on the phone, if you go ahead with this marriage, then you can walk over my dead body. And that's when Nidhi burst out into a laughter. And she laughed and laughed and laughed and knew she has to move on. The next is there is a wedding and there is the shehnai and everything. And the parents attend the wedding with whatever. So the focus now turns to Nidhi from the parents. The wedding happens. and Nidhi is living an inter-country life, and everybody is happy. The parents have not really accepted, I can say, but yeah, there is a resolution after years and years.
Yeah, I really like this story. It's this should be like a novel.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is also that this is not coming from a space of like poverty, or this is coming from a very privileged socioeconomic background, and yet the struggle can be like pretty severe for someone even in that background.
And about the structure, this is just one of the structures that sometimes I follow when I get confused. But for me, I've also noticed that not a structure works every time. Sometimes you're just so emotionally invested, you just, start writing the way you want to write and then maybe add some structure to it. So yeah.
Thank you.
So is
But
there
yeah,
anyone else
anything you
to-
want to share, anything in terms of point of improvement or something that you felt in the first narration and this one, anything that is at the top of your mind, it'll be super helpful.
So I think the hook, and it's my mistake, I didn't mention it, that when you're done with your story, always think of the most, the most exciting part of it that would grab someone in. So for me, when I did Shaheen's story, I used her image as a child bride because I know that will really attract people towards reading that story. So I started the story with something like, she's sitting as a child bride, she's nervous, anxious, there's the scent of henna, there's music going around, and she's just in the midst of this whole thing, and she wants to get out of there. So just I think a stronger hook really gets you to reel people in.
Yeah, the challenge there is that image. Like you have a gorgeous bank of images there. Most of the times it's so hard to get consent.
Yeah.
And as a result of which, there are a lot of stories that purely rely on the power of narrative and not visuals.
Yeah,
it would be luxury to actually use. So, for example, the character here cast photo of that time. So, suppose that's not there, you again look for a hook to begin with, some quote or something, or
Yeah. So, like the story that Shazina mentioned of the father who had 6 daughters, he started with a very strong quote that, people used to tell me that I need to worry about my daughter's marriage and dowry and not their education. So, I think a strong quote like that could also reel people in.
And also, I think if we don't have good visuals, we can always sketch the scene, whatever you have in mind. Uh, um, we could visualize that. We could let the audience visualize through what we write.
Oh, yeah, that's a super helpful point. Thank you.
So let's move on to an exciting part where Anam is going to come in and talk about the mediums that we interact on through for these stories. So over to you.
Thank you, Shazina. Thank you guys for being here and for being super engaging. I'm just going to share my screen. Let me know, please, when it's visible to you guys.
It is.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly deep dive into my introduction. I'm Anam, and I've spent a decade in digital agencies. Sorry, did something happen? I think my screen.
No,
Is
no,
my
it's
screen
perfect.
still there? Okay, yeah. So I don't know what's happening. Sorry. I'm trying to minimize that. Okay. Okay, again, my name is Anam, and I basically spent a decade in digital agencies working for brands like Unilever, and later, I joined and I got into tech at the Raz Alibaba before joining TCF. I think joining TCF was more of a calling than a career move. It was a moment when I became a new mom, and I realized that I wanted to do better for this community and for the society, and I wanted to create impact and be part of an organization which did something truly purpose driven. So here I am. It's been almost a year now, and time has totally flown by. So diving into what I'm going to be talking about today is adapting impact. And when I say impact, it means the impact of a story on different platforms. This is so that we can inspire, engage, and again get people to act as well. So I really wanted to highlight that we work for an organization where we witness transformation every day on a daily basis. So stories are something we thrive on. Stories are something that we want to make visible. So it helps us basically humanize our work and create empathy and inspire actions. And J.K. Rowling rightly said that no story lives unless someone wants to listen. So how do you encourage people to listen to the stories? The missing link often gets that you have to understand that when you have a certain story, you have to reach the right audience as well. You have to touch them emotionally and connect your brand with them. Too often we're just creating a story, but stories that are powerful need to reach the right people at the right place and at the right platform. Dissemination it shouldn't be an afterthought, and it should be the other half of storytelling, which is why like telling story is just one step, but what's equally crucial for us is planning a rollout plan. So when we talk about rollout plan, we decide and we think about where do stories live. So at TCF, when we have a certain story, we think about, okay, this particular story will, how do we implement it on digital media? How do we curate a video or like a reel, or how do we publish it on the website if need be? And then the other mediums that we generally use are prints and events. Also, we deliver stories, and then media and PR, where basically influencers and celebrities and even employees, they are basically our frontline they act as our frontline storytellers. So if I further dive down into platform characteristics, and my apologies if I'm going too fast, if if you feel like my pace is too fast, just stop me there. But if we talk about Meta, for instance, we use Meta to drive short emotional content. There's a study which suggests that we have a 3-second window to catch the attention of our viewers. And there was a report again I was studying which suggested that posts with emotional stories has twice the impact in fundraising campaigns. Which rather to the only stats if we present. So here's a video of a girl called Devi Savan. This is a reel essentially that we created, and this again is basically we did this when we had our year-end campaign, and the objective of that campaign was to highlight girls' education. So we found this girl, and her story was really compelling. So keep in mind all that Shazina and Mevish have told you, and how we create our plot, and this is how we basically curate the content and then we disseminate it on platforms. So here it goes. Um, so this is like a really moving story of Devi Sawan, and we just like we're so impacted by this because she's only 9 years old, and like her family decided her future for her and said that okay, she's like no longer eligible to study because she's old, and she has to prepare for her dowry. But like we still took out like a positive like hope. We kind of extracted hope from her story, that like the principle was determined, the message of resilience was there. So we wanted to depict that in our reels. And when you have such a story, it's important how you like disseminate that. So it wasn't just reels that we did for this particular story. On Facebook we did carousel as well. However, there was a study which recommended that 50% of the time spent on Instagram is on Reels, and about 60% of your time on Instagram and Facebook is on watching videos now. So the trends are also changing. So as a brand, I feel like we're still learning a lot, and we're still evolving in terms of how what would attract our audience, and what would how can we make a story visually more appealing. And then a study, a meta study, suggested posting frequency of between reels, feeds, and stories, which suggested that a brand should put up reels 3 to 4 times per week, while feeds should be 1 to 2 times per week, and same for the stories. However, it also recommended that this is like just a guidance, and it can work differently for every particular brand. And there's no like the right formula to it. You learn as you progress with a brand. Then moving forward, if we talk about YouTube, YouTube is again, we use YouTube for longer form videos, which again is essential to share a longer narrative where, like Mevish mentioned, that it's not just the story of one particular person, but also how many other characters are involved in building that in the hero characters. So, for example, in the long form video, which is 3 minutes plus, or generally we try to keep it within a minute or two. But if we have longer forms, then the story basically of Shabana, for example, had the narration from the angle of the mother, the angle of the teacher, and then obviously Shabana, who's the main character, her message as well. Similarly, we do ads on YouTube as well. So 15 seconds and less are non-skippable ads, which create instant impact. And this is one such ad that I want to show. This is an ad we did for our Ramzan ad, and this is how it goes. Sorry, I'm just going to pause here, and I'm just going to say that this is in a local language, so you can read the subtitles here, because in all our videos we generally do add subtitles.
छोटी सी किरण यहाँ पर लिख कर यहीं उतानी लग जाएगी। ये छोटा सा दिया। द सिटीजन्स फाउंडेशन पिछले 30 सालों से मयारी तालीम के जरिए लाखों बच्चों का मुस्तकबिल रोशन बना रहा है। TCF का साथ दें और बदले लाखों जिंदगियां।
This was, even though this was a 15-second ad, but it had like a clear message that what TCF does, what is the impact that our organization is trying to create. So yeah, this is how we use our YouTube platform. Now if we move towards LinkedIn is a very crucial I'd say platform for us, because it drives social impact, and it's a very value driven platform as well. While you may see that there is no individual story or examples over here, I do want to highlight that storytelling isn't limited to individual narratives. At times it's basically it takes the form of relevant updates, appeals, for instance. The thing that we basically follow is that these moments collectively shape how you portray your brand. And basically, every piece of communication is part of a broader story you're telling to the world. So everything your organization shares, it's about contributing to the larger living story of your brand. It's really not what stories you tell, but how consistently and intentionally you tell them. And LinkedIn is the best platform where we say that, employee generated content really does well because it creates transparency, it creates authenticity, and similarly appeals. So this is an appeal of a founder that we generally do in our high peak seasons like Ramadan. And these work really well because it creates like, people can relate to it, and it creates like a closer connection. So these are some kind of posts that we do. We also like, highlight stories about our collaboration. We do highlight real stories as well on this platform, but in a very different way. Then if we talk about print, so on print, I think like we feel that receiving a printed story or a report in hand again signals transparency, permanence, and professionalism. So anything which has data, but at the same time it has a compelling proof of impact. That is what we want to showcase in our print. So we use a lot of facts and quotes based storytelling here. I'm not sure if you'd be able to read, but this is our direct mailer that we printed this Ramadan. And basically, this is a story we highlighted of an alumni whose name is Zen. And I'm just going to read out his quote so that you have a better idea on how we like implement, storytelling in our print ads. So it goes like, I belong to a small town in Shahpur, Punjab, and my father was a barber. But a good education gave me a ticket to KI, which is a popular university in Pakistan. It lifted my family out of poverty and changed my life in ways I'd never imagined. So this is exactly like, how he feels, how he wanted to share his story. Similarly, Mevish, highlighted about the floods. So this was highlighted in the annual reports that, when the floods came in Pakistan, the situation, we highlighted, a quote of this relief operation lead, who really like commented that the situation on ground was truly heartbreaking. And I had families coming to me saying this is the first meal they're seeing in the days. So we took this narrative and this story, and we turned into a positive narrative that TCF was there and how they helped in keeping education alive within those communities, within the flood affectees, and bring like hope within those communities as well. So moving forward, again, email. So one, I think Anusha touched based on how can we tell stories if we don't have pictures. So we do illustrations as well, like illustration series based stories are something that we do on emails. Emails is a platform for more direct and personalized contents. We feel that emails allow like instant distribution of stories, and you can tailor your stories for different audiences as well, using like different email list segmentation as well. And emails also kind of amplify multi-platform storytelling because in an email you can link videos, blogs, social media posts, creating like a cross-channel impact. Another thing about emails is that boost campaign performance, like emails reminders during fundraising campaigns like Ramadan. Generally, we see like an increase in donations up to like 50% as well. So this is one way of showcasing your stories, but another way is picture-based stories and letter formats as well.
And I'm so sorry, just given that because people would be on time and we have 1 more minute remaining. Is it okay to pause here? We'll share the slide deck as well, just being conscious of
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
But thank you so much. We will be launching a poll as well. But if anyone has an urgent question coming up, I know that a lot of questions were answered on the chat box as well. Thank you very much, Hazina, Mevish, and Anam, for that. I'm launching a poll for a quick feedback. I know that you would be busy and have to go somewhere else as well. We will share key takeaways as well, and we will share the slide deck as well. But if you have any urgent question which is coming up, which you're holding your breath onto, this would be a great time to ask that. No questions? Great. I think most of these questions were answered. So please, if you could stay back and just complete the feedback for us while I share our gratefulness. We're really, really thank you, Shadina, Mevish, and Adam. I think a 3-day workshop would also have been more required over here. I would have sat down. There were so many stories to write and share. And we haven't even got to the context of every participant who's there, literally from across different parts of the globe. So it would have been great to even touch that. But I think this is a good glimpse and a great glimpse into a starting of a communication learning series. Anusha, I see you unmute. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was looking for this pop-up only. Yeah, I mean, really, really thankful. It was extremely helpful. I would really like to attend, especially the last bit, Anumasa Ali was covering the very critical bit about, the emailer part of it, what works there, what works on LinkedIn, because each of these platforms are so unique in their, the audience sitting there as well as how you approach them. So if we could, go deeper into that and have another session on that, would love it. But really grateful.
Certainly have taken that into account.
It was super well structured and super well conducted. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So before you leave, I'm sure I'm seeing many people have already given it. Why don't we take a picture if you're comfortable with that? That's something we love to do. I would have shown you a dog smiley face, but I don't want to waste your time. So I'll show you my smiley face and we do a 5, 2, 1. So that gives you time to show your smiley faces. 5, 4, 3. Yes, almost there. 2. Your hair look perfect. Don't worry about them. 1 and 0. Let's get a smile. Thank you so much on behalf of GSF team and the community. Thank you so much, Hazina, Mevish, and Anna. Thank you everyone for joining in.
Thank you for being a lovely audience, and it was great interacting with you all, and there were such amazing questions that came up. And we would love to do another session. Definitely, Anusha, that you're right, that's the important part, I feel, in today's world, digitally.
Lovely. And would you be able to drop your LinkedIn IDs or something so we can keep in touch?
I'll share that with the takeaways as well. Even if you don't get a chance in the chat box, I'll share them with the takeaway email.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.